All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. uh, if you're new to the stream, welcome. I'll explain to you how this all works. Hold on. Let me just make an adjustment here. Hopefully, you guys can hear me all right. All right. How's everyone doing? So let's go over this real quick. So in these streams now, as you know, I'm not covering Bitcoin or the altcoins specifically. I can talk about ETFs, right? And all those things. Like I have Beto up here. We can talk about stuff like that. Also, I'm going to go over things like the NASDAQ and gold and oil. And also, I'll answer your questions about specific stocks or things like that. I can't talk about altcoins on this stream, but if you have questions about stuff like that, you can go check out my other channel, right? Where I'm going over that. I'm putting out a video every single day. Hey, Hamid, good to see you. All right. Hey, James, cool. Oh, you like the channel. I'm so glad, you guys. I'm glad. Great feedback. Thank you. If you haven't seen my other channel here, I'm going to put it in the chat now. Let me just put it in there. All right. So it's here's the URL. Let me just put it there. Let me see if I can type this in right. So I've been doing this now for it's like my third week. Let me just put this. Right. Okay. I believe that's the correct URL. And here, let me just put this in here. Hold on a second. Hold on a second, guys. There we go. So that's the URL. I just put it in the chat, and I'm going to put it up on the screen so people can see it. That's my alternate channel. Now, I've been working on this. I'm not working on it alone. I'm working with a team, and as you'll notice, my chart here is not the same as the charts on that channel. So we're working. It's more of like a collaboration, and the charts are essentially given to me, and then I interpret them somewhat. And it's an update channel. So it gives you updates like on Bitcoin and Ethereum and some general things like that, a couple of news items real quick. That's the purpose of the channel. And I have to produce every single day. So it's a lot of work for me, man. You guys know I'm lazy. And those videos it's only 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes take me hours. Takes me hours to produce that. So it's tiring, but I'm having fun. And I had to cool off a little bit on the jokes because they're like, bro, you're gonna get us banned, because I just get out of hand with the jokes. But so I'm trying to contain the jokes, but still be entertaining. You have to be very creative. I can't resort to my booty cheeks humor. I know he'll be popping up here in a moment. So anyway, thanks for joining me on my stream. I still have to produce today's video, by the way. So, but I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. And if you have any feedback, let me know. I'd love to know what you guys think. Something you like, something you don't like. It's very helpful. All right. So anyway, so on this channel again, we're going to review our thing like we do every week, and I'm not going to go over the economic events this week because there are no economic events. We have New Year tomorrow, right? So I think Friday is Friday on non-farm payrolls. I haven't even checked. Friday is the first Friday of the new month, so there might be non-farm payrolls, but I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can tell me. This is the interactive portion of the stream because I haven't had time to check today. So I've been actually trying to minimize my exposure to the markets in these weeks. I stupidly I attempted to trade on Friday, and that was a bad idea because it was just like you lose a little money and like, oh, I got to make that back, and then it gets worse, right? So and in this environment, that kind of thing is going to happen because there's no follow through, there's no momentum. Now the first 30 minutes, yes, there's it's worthwhile. Like today was pretty good in the NASDAQ for the first 30 minutes, but then after that, once the volume tapers off, that's it. Especially my type of strategy, I need momentum. So if momentum lacks, then it can be very, very problematic because you get trade signals with no follow through, and it's very noisy and very confusing. So the easiest thing to do is just to stay away, right? And that's what you should be doing for this week, today, tomorrow, Wednesday. People are going to be still drunk on Wednesday, right? So probably we'll probably won't see a return back to normal volume probably till like next week, early next week, right? And I'm referring to people that are interested in intraday price action, right? What we're looking at here, bigger picture stuff, it doesn't apply as much, but there's really not a whole lot going on. All right, so we'll get into that. Anyway, let me see how my numbers are. Yeah, see what I mean? My numbers are low. Look at that. No one's watching. I mean, I got you guys, which I appreciate. So, but it's a holiday. People are away. People are with family. You should be enjoying your holiday. That's what you should be doing. So anyway, all right. So guys, let me know about non-farm payrolls. Do we have that this week? Do we have non-farm payrolls on Friday? Now let's begin. Um, we're going to begin here with. Oh, you know what, Hamid? I want to mention something. On the video that I produced yesterday, I actually presented a chart on the what is it? The not others. The altcoin market cap. It's you always ask me about like Bitcoin dominance, and you always ask me about like others dominance. Well, it was one of those market cap charts, and they gave me the chart with a momentum oscillator on it. So I just wanted to mention it to you in case you wanted to check that out. But all right, so let's begin here with Beto, right? And I'm going to wait for you guys to let me know about non-farm payrolls, because if there's any economic events worth mentioning, it's going to be that. All right, now non-farm. So let's talk about BITO. This is, as you know, one of the Bitcoin ETFs. Hey Benjamin, CRWV, sure, and Tem, sure. Yeah, well, I think we'll have time. Oh, I put the wrong URL for that YouTube thing, by the way. No, Benjamin, I couldn't put it out this week. There wasn't really much worth. It wasn't really worth anything writing about anyway. But I just couldn't do it. It was either make my video or not make my video. I had to make the video. So here I'm gonna put. I put the wrong URL in there for YouTube. That's not going to take you anywhere, that one. So let me just put this one in here. This is my alternate channel. Okay. I put Mark P Market because I don't know how to spell my own name here. Mark's Market. This is what it's called, right? My other YouTube channel. Yeah, so Benjamin, yeah, I apologize for that, but I just couldn't produce the analysis. And plus, since it's a holiday, like I said, excuse me, there's not much. There wasn't much worth talking about at the time. As in the evening, that's where we had that price spike. But before then, it was pretty quiet. Oh, excuse me. Oh, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the feedback. I'm glad you guys like the channel. The guys I'm working with, actually, they're very happy because for the short amount of time that we've been producing it, we've seen some decent traction, considering how long we just started the channel. Like, we're going into our third week, I believe. This is our third week. And they're pretty happy with the results. Hey, Savi. Oh, great. I'm glad that's, I was kind of going for that kind of angle, except with better analysis, because, same angry bald guy, except you can't see me. But, I wanted to make it entertaining because the information itself is kind of boring, right? We're talking about charts. So I wanted to make it entertaining, but more than just entertaining, I want it to be funny, like where you guys could just walk away with some laughs. But I get a little out of hand, as you can see, like some of the jokes and some of the stuff I get into, like I get the old, we need to talk to you for a moment speech, because I get out of hand and they're like, look, it's funny, but you're going to get us banned. You're making fun of people you shouldn't be making fun of. So I was like, all right, I gotta kind of cool it off on that area. But I think it's funny, so I'm kind of entertaining myself. Anyway, all right, that's the correct channel. I'm glad to hear you guys like the channel so far, because there's a lot of work. Like I was saying, it takes me hours to put together 10 minutes, and I have to do that every day. So it's very tiring. But I'm very happy that you guys like the channel, and it's nice to see that it's growing. And again, any feedback, I'd love to hear from you guys. Okay, any feedback, positive, negative, whatever. You're not hurting my feelings. It's all to help the channel grow. I'm I have my characters on the channel. Like I have the Japanese guy. The guys I'm working with, they love that character for some reason. They love the Japanese guy. So Frank Yen, I call him, after the Forex pair. So anyway, all right. Enough about the other channel. Let's talk about this channel now. So let's begin. I just want to talk about Beto on the big picture. You can use this, what I'm about to share with you here. You can use this as a guide for Bitcoin, and all that other stuff. But of course, the other channel has way more detail and much more information, plus the news articles. So cool. I appreciate that, Savi. Savi, you know what? Have you been to any CMT events? Because they don't send me emails anymore. I'm wondering. I think they don't like me anymore or something. Have there been any events this month? Like, have you gotten any emails? Because usually they have like a holiday gathering thing, and I got nothing. I'm like, maybe they just maybe they're tired of me complaining about them. I don't know. Anyway, it's very possible that they don't like me anymore, but they probably like you. So they probably, if they've sent you an email and they haven't sent me one, then I get the message. So, all right, let's talk about analysis here, shall we? So this situation, what we have in Bitcoin, look, it's pretty clear, right? And you can see it here on the Beto chart, right? The lower highs, lower lows, and it's consolidating. And, the analysis on the other channel, I agree with a lot of it. It may seem biased because pretty much it's always talking about bullish stuff, even when things are looking bearish. But here's the thing, if I wasn't in agreement, oh, you got paid ones? I never even got those. I think they don't like me anymore. All right, no problem. That's cool. But yeah, I haven't even gotten like the paid ones. So, but I guess if there was no free ones, then there must have been no party. I guess inflation, huh? Things that they're having a hard time. None of the analysts are making money, I guess. So this situation, right, we have in Bitcoin and generally in that market, you have to understand, like, it looks ugly on the short term, as you can see here, right? It doesn't look very good. But as I put out, oh, there he is, Alex from Romania. I was waiting for you, Alex, because if you don't come here, I can't say Romania. Now that I yell all day in my other videos, I can yell here too. Romania! I love Romania! Alex from Romania! Izzy from Indonesia, I think you're from, right? So, or no, Kuala Lumpur. Yeah, that's it. So, Romania. All right. So like I said, guys, I could show you the Beto chart. We could talk about the ETFs as a proxy, and this is what I want to. This is the point that I'll make. I'm not going to stay on this. We're going to move on. Yeah, that's it. Okay, I knew it. I knew it was somewhere around there. Sorry, I made a mistake, Izzy, but I knew it was. I was in there in the neighborhood, sort of. All right. Anyway, thanks for clarifying. So again, this situation, right? This is a buying opportunity, and that's what I say in the other channel, like every day. This is generally a buying opportunity because you know what? You have to look at the big picture, as we show in that other channel too. I mean, we show weekly, monthly charts regularly. This is the situation when things look ugly like this, and things look pretty ugly. This is where the risk is generally lower. So, like for example, what I'm doing, I'm buying Coinbase. I've been trying to accumulate Coinbase. I'm interested in MSTR, but MSTR is a little tricky, and it may have a little more weakness ahead of it because it's going to be more because the way it's leveraged, it's going to outperform. So when Bitcoin does really bad, MSTR is going to do worse. When Bitcoin does really good, MSTR is going to do better, right? That's how it's set up. So I'm interested in that stock, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get exposure without having to buy the coin itself, right? So that's why the stocks can be very helpful. There are many stocks. I just like Coinbase because they have their business where they rip people off all day, and so that's a pretty decent business. But it's also a very competitive business. So these Bitcoin treasuries like MSTR, they're interesting, but again, you have to consider the risks because the risks are higher. I am in the stocks for these reasons. I'm trying to accumulate smaller positions. That's how I'm adjusting. Right? If I believe the risk is greater and I don't want to take that kind of risk, I take smaller positions. So yeah, if I'm right, I make less money, but who cares? I'm interested in risk, right? not the reward. I'm interested in the risk. If I can control the risk, then everything else takes care of itself. So again, pointing this out for investors, right? This is a very, very interesting area because, we're at a low point. We're likely to break slightly lower. That translates into an 80K break on Bitcoin. It can happen. It hasn't, it refuses to break. It's been very solid, but understand, we're in the middle of a holiday right now. Volume is generally lower. So all it takes is a catalyst, right? Some catalyst, whatever, and next thing you know, 80K breaks. It can happen. So I believe it's a lower probability, but if it occurs, be prepared for 73K. That you're talking like, you're talking like in this area here. This chart isn't the best representation because we can't see that chart. Maybe I can pull up Coinbase might be a better representation, right? Let's pull up Coinbase. Okay. So like here's Coinbase. This looks almost exactly like the Bitcoin chart. Okay. Almost exactly. And so this is where Bitcoin is around what, like 87, whatever, something like that. Now it pulled back a little bit, right? It had that 90K spike yesterday and it pulled back a bit, right? So this looks very similar. So if Bitcoin pulls back to like 73K or something like that, that's probably equivalent to like, around here somewhere, right? Somewhere around there on Coinbase. Like that translates to like, what is that? So we can round that to around 200 on Coinbase. And that 73K area, as we know, is a very, very important area. It was a previous all-time high before the election. We've talked about numerous overlapping things or arguments to be looking for longs in that area, right? So there's a few ways you can go about this. You can put limit orders in advance and take, buy small size, accumulate small size if price starts pushing lows into that area, or you could wait for the reversal, a clear confirmed reversal, and then start putting on smaller positions on the way back up, right? That's one way you can do that. Trump speak about peace negotiations. They say nine. Okay, well that's interesting, Hamid. Robinhood, right? We can take a look at that. That's a good idea too, because Robinhood is heavily invested in this. So anyway, my point is this: you don't want to look at something like this and say, "Oh, it looks ugly," because this is often where opportunity is in these types of situations, right? So when it looks ugly, that's when you want to take the risk. You don't want to take the risk when it's up here, right? When it's pushing these highs, you guys know, I always tell you guys when this thing is vertical and it looks like this and it's doing this, I'm like, guys, bad idea. If you want to day trade it, if you want to swing trade it, okay, but investing is a bad idea up at these levels. You guys know, I say it every time, right? So we're in the opposite situation right now, and we don't get these lows very often. So if you're going to invest, if you're going to put some money to work or you have money to put to work, now is the time. It can go lower, and that's good because you can accumulate more. The point is the risk is generally lower. If you're going to get involved, you want to get involved when things look ugly, not when things look great, because when things are up here, this is where you want to sell. This is where you want to take your profits, on top of all those morons that are buying it because it looks good now. My favorite fakeroo told me to buy it now. It's going to double. That's when you sell it to them. Okay, and that's what the institutions typically do. That's what Michael Saylor is going to do that, and Kathy Wood, and all those other retail favorites that they all have to, have a pants party over, right? It's all propaganda. Anyway, so you get my point, right? Sorry, so let's move along. You guys have a few stocks here, so we're going to go over those because I want to keep this, I don't want to go overboard today. I have to still make my video. Hamid, I want to address this. So Trump and the Ukrainian guy are going to speak about peace. So if they say something like this, right, Hamid, they say 90% peace can happen. I'm sure you can even see these probabilities on the betting markets, on the event markets, like what's that one called? Poly Market. I'm sure you can see those events on there, and those are very accurate probabilities, right? And the reason why those generally are more accurate is because people can bet on inside information. So if an insider knows something, they can go there, they could set up their question or whatever, and then they can bet because they know something. That's why those markets tend to be more accurate at forecasting, because they incentivize people with inside information to put money on the line. So people are actually voting with their money, people with relevant information or material information. That's why they work. Okay, DXY, sure, Hamid. Well, I could look at dollar index, tether dominance. I mean, DXY is the dollar index. So, but we could take a look at that. So you guys understand this thing with 90% probability. Understand, Hamid, if that's the case, then that's priced into the market, right? If that's what they're saying, maybe that's why Bitcoin spiked yesterday. I don't know, but that means it's priced in. So if they come out and they say, oh yeah, peace, blah blah blah, the market probably won't go nuts because it's being priced in, right? Because Trump and gold get pulled. So is that why gold was weak? All right, so let's move along. Let's start jumping into some other markets here. So before I get into the stocks and all that stuff, let's take a quick look at the bond market, because we really should always be aware of the bond market. All right. So we're going to go here to ZN1. ZN1 is the 10-year note futures. Right. I like to go over this regularly because if there's any market that's going to give you a sign or a signal that's going to steer the other markets, it's this one, right? Because this is what all money is, all loans, borrowing, and everything. The interest is based on this market, right? The 10-year note. So these are the 10-year note futures. This is the price. As we know, the inverse of this is the yield, right? So if price goes higher, that means the yield should be going lower. So obviously we have a little bit of green here. This is what you want to see. It found support right here at this level. What is that? 112.075 is that? Yeah, so basically that 112 area, it held and it produced a higher low. This is good. All right, this is a good sign. Now remember, we're going into the new year. The first month of the new year is often sets a tone for the remainder of the year, especially in like the small caps, right? If the small caps rally hard in the first month, they call it the January effect. You can Google that. Then that usually is a sign. It usually sets the tone for the year, right? Now, if the bond prices are rising, which again it's a small rise, but the thing is, this here is a bullish structure, and we have a higher low confirmed now here, right? That's our support on the bonds. If this holds, if it continues to hold, and we rally, especially into the first month, and we push our way up there, that means rates are going lower. That is what the market wants. That's what Trump wants. That's what everyone wants, right? I mean, except Powell. Powell doesn't want that. So that would mean rates are going lower. And that means money is getting cheaper. So the stock market's going to like that. Gold is going to like that. Property values are going to like that. Everything's going to like that, right? So, well, all right, we'll take a look. We're definitely going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at that, Hamid, for sure. That's good. It's good that you're mentioning that. Very good. Thanks for sharing all that. So, and by the way, do we have non-farm payrolls this week? Can someone let me know? And Neo, Alex, yeah, no problem. From Romania, Neo, no problem. We'll take a look at Neo. All right, so you follow me on the bond market. This is the weekly bond market, by the way. This is the weekly chart. So real quick, we could just take a look at the yield. US10Y is the yield, right? And as you can see, the yield, I mean, it hasn't moved much. But again, we're this week and the week before, it's holiday. You can't expect much action. So the goal here is to just figure out, what are the scenarios for the first month, right? What should we see? So based on these charts, we should be able to get some kind of idea, right? So if the yields are going lower, we want to see the yield break this area right here, which is what, 3.962? So we want to see, if we're seeing 3.95, we see it pushing lower, that's a positive sign, okay? That's a positive sign. While we're at this, let's take a quick look at IWM. IWM is the ETF for the Russell 2000, right? The Russell 2000 are the small caps. This you particularly want to pay attention to for January, particularly because this is where you see that January effect, right? This is the weekly. I mean, look at this thing. This looks like an altcoin, right? These are your small caps. And these things are rallying. Let's see, how far does this go back? Okay, since May, they've been pretty much going nuts, right? I mean, the whole stock market, but this is feeling it a little more. Why? Because money is getting cheaper. And when you have cheaper money, these small caps benefit because they depend on borrowing money. They're very dependent on borrowing money to operate, right? So understand, keep an eye on this thing. This thing looks bullish. Now, should you buy IWM up here? No. But any type of pullback, right? The key support in a situation like this, again, I'm looking at a weekly chart here. You have this area right here, right? That area right there, that's a key support. You also have an old resistance right here, which can act as a support. So those areas on IWM, you want to keep an eye on for the next month. Let's take a quick look at a daily time frame, right? These are the daily chart. So yes, you have a lower high in progress here. So maybe there's a pullback that's coming. And this is where you want to be patient. And you want to see, can we pull back into this support area right here, right? In this zone, either these lows or somewhere around where this line is, somewhere around there, that old resistance, new support, which lines up nicely with this consolidation that we have right here. I mean, that's a consolidation. Usually when you touch a midpoint of a consolidation, a lot of times that acts as a support or a resistance. So that area, which is 242, 242 and a half, basically, I round the numbers. That area right there is an attractive area for longs. This is great for options, doing vertical spreads. You could do bull put spreads, right? When price gets there, sell put underneath, buy a put below that. Thing pops back up, you make some money, right? That's the time runs out on those things and you make some money. You could do call spreads. You could do vertical spreads where you do the bull call spread, right? You buy the call, sell the one higher, and you do that to basically just lower the premium of your original call. But I like collecting the premium better. Those trades are just a higher probability of coming out green. You make less money, but the probability is greater, and that's really all I'm interested in. All right, so that's IWM, right? So let's jump over to gold. So gold, XAU, USD. So gold, wow, look at that. Wow, gold got hammered. Nice hammering on gold right there. Interesting, right? I wonder what silver's doing. We'll have to take a quick look. So that's a big move on gold. 200 points. For almost, what is that? Almost almost 4.5% in one candle. That's a hammering in gold. This is why. Now, let's see what's happening here. This is a daily gold chart, right? And remember, we talked about gold like the week before because it was going nuts. This is why, perfect example, why I tell people, do not buy the highs. If you do, be prepared for this because yes, we had that news come out. It's being priced in, right? That whatever that peace deal, it's being priced in, but before that deal, you don't know what's coming out. This is why you can't buy those breakouts and be like, oh yeah, it's just going to keep going because you're buying into a high probability fake out zone. Coincidentally, that news came out here, right? But it just so happens that gold was in a fake out zone. So what do you do with trades like that? If you took the breakout, you have to be prepared for something like this. You don't go into a trade like that with high expectations. Maybe it's a day trade, no problem. You could take day trades like that all day long. There was plenty of opportunity as far as day trades go. Even a swing trade, you had a couple of days there after the breakout. Perhaps you could have raised your stop or something, but you should not be stuck in this thing. Like if you invested in gold and you bought it here at the top, you just bought the worst possible price. I'm pointing this out because we see the same thing in Bitcoin. We see the same thing in altcoins. This is why I tell you, when you're pushing highs like this is the worst time to get involved in something. Your risk of pullback is the greatest in terms of probability, right? So now what? Well, has the trend changed in gold? No, it's just a failed high, right? So now you want to watch this thing for pulling back, right? and you want to look for the next support. And what I'm showing you here, you can apply this to any market. It doesn't have to be just gold, because all markets experience the same cycle here. It's the same thing. So this old resistance you had back here should now act as a new support. And that's around 42.64, right? So 42.64, 42.50, that area right in here, that's a good place to look for a bullish reversal. So it doesn't mean you just step into it. It doesn't mean you just buy just because it's there, because this momentum may follow through, right? It may blow through and it may go to the next support. It can do something like that. That's very possible, right? All you need is some other piece of news to come out to hammer gold even further while the weakness is present. And people overreact. Plus, people get margin calls and all that stuff. So next thing you know, it can go further. So you don't want to get caught in that, right? So what you want to see is stabilization in this area. You want to see gold go there, get stuck there, and then produce this type of price action. See this here? That's like stabilization. That's the failed low, double bottom, higher low possibility. Look, you had that over here too. See that? Higher low, little mini higher low. You had another one over here. Look, higher low. It's a little bit of an elongated consolidation. But you want to be careful not to get caught in something like this, right? That was a lower high, and it made the lower low first. If you notice, a lot of times these things will produce three legs, which is very common when you do wave counts, right? Corrective waves are typically, the standard corrective wave is three legs, right? A, B, C. So you don't need to know that to recognize this. You don't need to be familiar with wave counts. What you need to be familiar with, though, are the levels, right? Because the levels can give you a sense of risk. Like this level here is high risk. Anything above there is high risk for longs. It's aggressive for shorts. If you're thinking of shorts, which is nuts for gold, it's very aggressive and very hard. You'd have to wait for a signal like this, before getting involved. And that's an outside bar. Half the move is over, right? I mean, so it's like, what do you do now? As a swing trader, it's like the move is in progress. Maybe there's a little left in it, but you're better off, I think, in my opinion, the more conservative thing to do would just be look for stabilization at support, right? So that's good, Hamid, that you're aware of that news, and that this outside bar could be a sign of some further momentum. But just keep something in mind. The Federal Reserve is still on their money printing mode, right? They really haven't made any hawkish comments. The administration here still has every intention to inflate and all that other stuff, right? We're still going to see a new chairman of the Federal Reserve in May, who's going to be a yes man, right? Instead of a chairman, he's a yes man. So keep in mind, those inflationary ideas are going to support gold, right? So that's why it's important to keep that in the back of your mind. All right, so anyway, that's gold. Any questions, let me know, guys. But pretty amazing, pretty amazing. So all of that is priced in, right? All that peace talk stuff, priced in. Interesting. All right, let's jump around. Let's take a look at, real quick, I'm not going to really say much about it, but let's just take a look at silver. Oh, I just want to, no, XAU, USD. Yeah, silver. Wow, oh, man. So whatever gold does, silver does it on steroids. Let's see. So silver was as high as $84, and now it's at 72. What a move on silver, man. Wow. That's a nasty candle. Right? Imagine all the clowns that bought it. Yeah. How could it be minus 12 points on me? I just bought it. Right? See what I mean? I mean, look at this move on silver. This is nuts, man. This is nuts. That's nuts. Anyway, now is a good time to wait for the pullback and look for, I'll tell you, with a move like this, right? I'll just say this real quick. Your first supports are going to be around here, right? Around 54. Man, that's a big move. But when you have a move like this, there's no guarantee it's going to get back there. In fact, it's a lower probability since this trend is so strong, and since fundamentally speaking, silver will still be supported, right? Just like gold, you want to look for the 50%, right? The 50% pullback. I mean, the 382 actually I'm using fib numbers here. The 382 is probably your best, right? Because in a trend, that's around $70. And look, it touched it. It touched it, and it gave you a little tail on there. But this candle is too steep, right? So that $70 area, you'd want to see stability develop at least over the next couple of weeks or something before getting involved in this, because it may push to that 50% area, right? Those proportions are a reflection, they're basically sentiment based, right? People react and people's natural reactions, they have a structure, right? And that's what these proportions help us see. They help us see the structure of emotions in the market. That's why they're helpful. Plus, everyone else is looking at them, so they also have that self-fulfilling prophecy element. Anyway, all right, let's move along. So that's silver. Let's take a look at. Let's see. We'll do a quick look at oil. Then I'll start looking at your request. CL1. Okay. So here's oil. How's oil doing? So let's go to the weekly chart on oil. Right now, oil. We've been talking about this support level, right, for weeks and weeks. Look at this. Look at this. Right, a week ago, when we were looking at this, right, we were saying, "Wow, what an attractive level for longs." It's aggressive, but look, 2 weeks ago you had the pin bar. A week ago you had this inverted hammer. I believe that's what that would be called because it's at a low, right? And it doesn't matter the name. What matters is the location, right? That's what matters. So look at this. That's a failed low. Okay. That's kind of like the opposite of gold. Failed low situation. And you have an inside bar developing. It's the beginning of the week. So you can't really make a big deal out of this inside bar yet. But the previous week's candle broke the week before's high, which is a bullish sign. So oil, if you're looking for a long trade, I mean, oil is showing signs. Oil is showing signs of bullish reversal, right? And if oil bounces out of this area, I mean, oil has some room here. Oil has some room. So the aggressive longs on this thing would be like around now. That would be aggressive. Why is it aggressive? Because this resistance is still in play. You see that? Let me make it bigger. Maybe you guys might have a hard time seeing that. That resistance is still in play because it's a lower high relative to this one, right? So this is all price structure based, right? So if oil can push above that high, then you have your conservative signal, meaning, okay, the structure is now changing to bullish, right? And that's where you could be more confident with your longs. You can expect more from your longs. You can expect less from your shorts, right? That kind of stuff. You can expect your supports to be more likely to hold. That's your expectations. That's how they change when the structure is broken. But until the structure is broken, you have to keep your expectations in line with the structure. And right now, this structure is still bearish because you have lower highs. You're not pushing lows exactly anymore, but you're not pushing resistances either. So this is more of a mixed situation, right? It's looking bullish. I believe it has a bullish bias because of the location, but you can also make a strong argument that it's mixed. Does that make sense? All right, let me see what's going on here in the chat. So okay, silver. Well, don't be so sure, man. Silver and gold, they look bad right now, but they were overdone to begin with. They were overdone, right? So we're just seeing a normal pullback. That's really all it is. The news got it started, right? Usually a catalyst like that will come out, an unexpected catalyst, and then these things will feel it, right? But these markets were vulnerable to begin with. They were pushing ridiculous highs to begin with. So they were highly vulnerable. All it takes is a catalyst. All markets work this way, right? Just like Bitcoin. Bitcoin keeps testing those lows, keeps testing those lows. All it takes is a piece of news. Well, no, but silver and gold move together, though. Silver was a little overdone too, but they generally move together. Silver is just more exaggerated. So if gold stabilizes, silver will stabilize. It's just silver is riskier. It's got a higher beta relative to gold. That's all. It's like Bitcoin and MSTR, right? MSTR has a much higher beta than Bitcoin. So anyway, just keep that in mind. If you want to take aggressive shorts and you want to try that with silver, okay, it's very aggressive. Anyway, all right, so that's oil. Let's move along here. And I covered all those. So let's take a look at dollar index, DXY. Now, you were saying dollar index, something dominance. You were saying, Mohammed, you were saying something about that. I don't know what that is. Tether dominance. Do I even have that on here? I don't even know what that is. Okay, so I'll put what is it? DXY USDT? Is that no? That's not it. Is that how that works? DXY. Let's take a look. Just DXY. So this is just the dollar index, right? Which is a basket of currencies, the US dollar versus, basket of currencies, right? So let's take a look here. Oh, tether dominance is separate. Okay. So this is the dollar index, right? Now, with bond prices rising and yields coming off, the dollar should be weaker. And we're seeing that. That makes sense. Okay. The dollar should be against other currencies. I mean, the dollar is losing value. This is what the government wants. This is what everyone wants, right? This makes us more competitive. But if you're poor, you're going to get poorer. All right. You're not going to be able to afford groceries. You're going to need food stamps. So this is a lower high, right? We have basically a double top situation here. There's nothing bullish about this right now, right? Dollar is coming off here. So you want to see how dollar index reacts at these lows here, right? 90, 96 area, basically. If we break those lows, then we're looking at lower dollar. Okay, we're looking at probably 90, something like that, which again is in line with lower, declining rates and rising bond prices. Okay, which is what everyone wants. That's what everyone's pushing for, except Powell. Powell insists on the Powell movement. Where's UTXO today? Where's my booty cheeks? He's not here to egg me on with my my lewd sense of humor. All right, so let's go to. I mean, tether dominance. I should be able to take a look at that. What is that? USDT. What is that? D. I see D. Okay, that shouldn't be a problem because that's not really an altcoin or anything. That's not an altcoin. That's not Bitcoin. I should be able to talk about this. It's basically the dollar. It's Tether's dominance. So wow, dominance is going higher on Tether, right? This is the weekly chart, and Tether dominance is increasing. So what does that tell us? People have been getting out of their altcoins, and Bitcoin's going back into their stable coin. I guess that's what that's telling us. Now, I mean, I don't know what you could, in terms of trends and stuff, I really don't know what this really can tell us right now. I mean, if Bitcoin and the altcoins sell off, then I would imagine the Tether dominance will increase, right? Because people would be selling their alts and the Bitcoin and getting back into their stable coin, right? Does that make sense? Or am I wrong about that? So if that's the case, look, we're pushing up into a resistance area, right? I mean, just going back here though, look, Tether dominance, this doesn't look like an inverse of Bitcoin though. You know what I mean? It's certainly not inverted because it looks kind of similar, right? It looks kind of similar, not exactly, but similar. So if dominance is rising, obviously I think that's what it's telling us. Just watch, you're at a resistance right now. An old support, new resistance, which means if dominance peaks, that means people are starting to turn around. You could use this to basically kind of gauge if people are starting to turn around and getting out of their tether and now buying, getting back into altcoins, getting back into Bitcoin. This might be a good sign of that when this thing turns bearish, right? So it's not there yet. It's not there yet, right? I mean, look where we are. Old resistance, old support, new resistance, right? That's where we are. So this is a good turning point, which also underscores the fact that Bitcoin is an attractive area for longs, right? And Ethereum, right? It's an attractive area for longs, which is the argument we've been making over and over. Okay, cool. All right, so let me jump around. We had some stocks. Let me go back to the stocks. Let me go back to my stock guys here. Let's see, where are they? Hold on, I'm just going back to the chat. Going back to the chat. Let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna go backwards. So I'll start with Alex from Romania. Neo. Let's take a look at Neo. Neo is not from Romania. All right. I know people are tired of that. I know Alex isn't tired of it because he's from Romania. All right. Let's take a look at Neo. Oh man, Alex, come on, man. What's going on here with this thing? Look at this. These car stocks. These are the electric vehicle. These things got hammered. I mean, man, so much for the electric vehicle dream, huh? So, all right, let's just look. What was this thing worth? This is just nonsensical. $66, and it's at $5.35 right now. So, I mean, if these things have a future, this is certainly the time to be accumulating some of it. Let's see here. So right now, structurally, it looks like the low has been established, right? You have this long consolidation here. You see that? Let me make it bigger so you guys can see it better. I mean, sometimes these charts, like the information is so small, I don't know what you could see at home. So this is clearly a consolidation you can see here, right? You have a range. Your range low is around here. What is that? $3. Is that $3? Yeah, $3.45. Wow, that would be a nice price, huh? And then you have the range high over here. Also, an interesting thing about something like NEO, look at the wave count. The wave structure is very clear here. You have a 1 and a 2 right there. You see that? 1, 2. Then you have 3. This is definitely a 3. It's very, very clear. Then you have a wave 4. This is clearly a wave 4. Have we overlapped wave 1? No, we have not. So the structure, the impulse is in play. Now it's trying to pop back up here. Now this is tricky. So wave 5 is certainly a higher probability as long as this structure holds. It's hard to say if this is the beginning of it because this thing can easily pull back one more time and give you a double bottom right around here, something like that. Remember, this is a weekly, okay? So this is something you want to keep an eye on. Any retest of $4.86 or $5 or somewhere between $4, $4.80 and $5, somewhere in that area, that would be a great area for accumulation if you're looking for that wave 5, right? If it breaks below that and you overlap, then that's okay. That means that the impulse is no longer in play. And that means it's likely to continue to consolidate. And in that scenario, you want to look for a retest of the 345. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, Alex? So not bad. It's just this would be I think this thing I think would be more appropriate for as like a longer term investment, like a multi-year, because I mean this is not really a great swing trader. What are you going to make a couple of dollars, like $2? It's just this. I think this thing, you'd be looking for like a longer term move, where if that structure, right, if you get a wave 5 and this structure turns out to be a wave 5 and it finishes up here somewhere, something like that, that would be like your broader wave 1. Like if let's say wave 5 looks like this, right? Wave 5. That would be your broader wave 1. And then you'd want to see a broader pullback, okay? Back into this area, something like that, a pullback into this area. And then that's where you're looking for the big wave 3. And again, what I'm showing you here can take a year to play out. The big wave 3 can bring you back up to these levels. Like it can bring you that would be a significant move. So if they get their act together and their money's starting to flow their way again and people are buying their cars, I believe they're the Chinese version of the they're China's version of the electric car or whatever. If they get their act together and everyone's buying these Chinese cars, you'll probably see that wave 3. But that's not anytime soon. All right, does that make sense? All right, so that's NEO. Okay, so there's an idea that say if Bitcoin always go up, for example, 2% yearly, people will buy all the Bitcoin and people can't. Okay, so Hamid, that's interesting. All right, so hold on, I'm gonna address that, but let me go back because I had some other requests here. So let me see what other let me just go back a bit and see. Oh yeah, Robinhood. Okay, yeah, we can take a look at Robinhood real quick. All right. So Hood is like Coinbase, right? Robinhood. It's like the big retail. You know, if you're a retail trader or investor, like you have Robinhood because it's for, people who just don't know any better. Anyway, free commissions. So so this is Robinhood on the weekly time frame. This is a strong looking stock. Okay, look, compared to Neo, right? We just looked at Neo. Look at this. Look at the wave count. 1, 2, right? 3. That's a wave 3. Very clear. This is wave 4. This has a lot of this. This looks good. Like if you want to invest in a stock that looks like it has good structure, it's Robinhood. Okay, I'm not a fan of the company, but the stock certainly looks good. The chart looks great. Look at that. And consider this, Bitcoin has gotten hammered. This really hasn't gotten hammered. Like what's the high here? 151, low 102. So it only pulled back 50 points. Like relatively speaking, that's not bad considering where it came from. So you're looking for a stock like this. This is certainly the structure right now looks attractive. Now, if the wave one high is over here at 65, basically $65. So if this thing overlaps $65, then I would say the party's over. But you'd be like, wow, that's 40, 50, 60 points away. I'm buying it now, I'm going to lose 60 points. Well, no, you don't buy it now. This would be a good place to maybe consider some accumulation. You want to watch this support over here, 95. So if 95 breaks, then probably 65 is on the table. But if 95 holds, then what you have here is a wave 4 consolidation, and it looks like a symmetrical triangle. Okay, wave 4s can come in many forms, right? So this looks like a symmetrical triangle, and this formation right here. So when this thing breaks out, I mean, you're looking at a test of 150. That's your minimum price objective in something like this. So that's 50 points from here. That's not bad. That's not bad for an investment, right? So I'll definitely keep this on the radar. I like this stock. You know what? I would rather buy this than MSTR because if Bitcoin rallies, this is probably going to rally too, right? Because they're heavily involved, right? They're very involved in blockchain stuff, and they're very very into that. So they would probably benefit immensely, and it's barely pulling back. So that's very interesting. So thanks for pulling that one up, Alex from Romania. So yeah, Robinhood, keep this one on your radars, people, for as far as investing goes. All right, let me move back here. I had some other requests. We had like 2 stocks. Let me go back. I think it was it was who was it? I'll find your name right here in a moment. Benjamin. Was it you? I think it was Benjamin. Yeah. All right. So we have CRWV and TEM. So let's take a look. Let's start with CRWV, and then I'll address some of these other things. All right, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other for every. Okay, so others dominant. See, I'll let those go. I'll let the team know. No, I understood who you're talking about, Ahmed. I'm going to address your comment there. It's a good comment. I'm going to address that. I just want to run through the stocks first before I address the comments. All right, so we had CR. What was it again? I can't remember the name now. Was it CRWV? Hold on, Benjamin. I'm going back here. Let me just look back. And let me see. Hold on. What is it? CRWV. All right, let's take a look. CRWV. CRWV. Okay, let's see. What stock is this? CoreWeave. What do they make? Hair weaves? I'm joking. All right. So let's see here. Wow. So the stock hasn't been around for a very long time, right? I have limited data. This is the weekly time frame. Now, this is an interesting pullback. So let's see. We have 1, 2, 3. I'm just looking at the wave count real quick. Look at that. So right there, you see that level right there? That level is your wave 1, wave 4 overlap. Okay, this is why wave counts are so important. You don't have to be an expert with wave counts, but if you understand the general idea, it can really it can help you shape expectations. It can help you form a reasonable roadmap that you can then adjust your risk around, right? So here we go. It sort of touched. Not really. So if it closes with conviction below $66, that looks like the number. $66, right, which would be a break below that blue line right there, and it stays below, then you have the overlap. If you have the overlap, that means that the probability of wave 5 is dramatically reduced, right? Right now, you don't have that situation yet. So you still may have a wave 5 ahead of you here, because this entire formation, this is wave 4. That's how nasty wave 4s can be, right? I mean, this gave back a pretty big portion of the move, but it hasn't overlapped wave 1. So it's still possible. So if you're going to buy this thing, CoreWeave, this would be the place to do it. Okay, not up here. What is this? What do they do? I don't even know what they do. I guess they don't make hair weaves. So, um, so you have a higher low developing, right? The new weekly candle just opened, so you have to give this thing some room. Plus, holiday, you don't want to be going nuts during like a holiday price action situation. But let's go to the daily time frame. Okay. So look at this. So it has a double bottom attempt right off of that 66 level. Pop up off of it. You have a higher low potential developing here, right? So a couple of ways you can go about it. You could wait for a bullish reversal pattern inside of this area right here. You could wait for something like that. Bullish engulfing candle, pin bar, something like that. That would be one way to go about it if you're going to buy the shares or you're going to do options. I'm sure you could do some nice option plays with this, or you wait for the breakout, right? You have this resistance area breakout here. That would be the more conservative play. That means the structure is now confirming to the bullish side, and you're most likely in wave 5, the beginning of wave 5 after the breakout, okay? Wave 5, by the way, theoretically should test the previous high. That's the theoretical price objective, but that might be unreasonable for this. Again, I don't know. So you want to pick more reasonable price objectives. This area right here would be a pretty reasonable price objective. And that is around 125, 125, 130, that area right there, right? This area up in here, right? You can't pinpoint an exact number. It's usually like a range somewhere. That would be a pretty reasonable price objective. But let's just say you're in it and it continues through. You try to hold on and see if it can go back up to the highs, right? You have to play that by ear. There's no way to know in advance. All you know is risk is generally lower here. You can define risk very easily by looking at this double bottom. That's your risk. Okay, so if you let's say you buy a bunch of it now and it breaks below that, which then you get in your overlap, you should bang it out. You should probably not hold on to it because it shouldn't do that if it's going to hold. Okay, it's all about what the market does. It's all about the evidence that the market provides, not what we think it's going to do. Right? Make sense? Okay, thanks for that one. So let me see. I usually do one per person. Let me just see what I have in the chat right now. Let me just go back to the current chat. Hold on, guys. Let me see where we're at here. Okay. All right. So yeah, we have time for 10. We could do 10. All right. I think it was TEM. Was it? Let me just go back. Man, why can't I remember? Yeah, TEM. All right. Let's take a look, Benjamin. Let's real quick. It's good that we look at these stocks because sometimes, like you find ideas that you may have not noticed. Like, for example, Robinhood. I wasn't paying attention to Robinhood. So I like that one now. I'm definitely going to put that one on my radar. I'd rather take Robinhood than Mister because, how much I love Michael Saylor. So anyway, all right. So here, Tempus. They're an AI company. Interesting. So this stock here, let's go to the weekly. This stock looks similar to Bitcoin, does it not? The chart looks similar. Not exactly, but similar. Bitcoin had that nasty pullback, and this thing has the same pullback. Look at this, chart's all over the place. On the weekly, look at these ranges, man. This is probably great for options. So wave count wise, I don't see a clear wave count here. All right. I mean, 1, 2, 3. See, even if I count this structure right here, if I count this one, we have an overlap. Right? If this is wave 1 and wave 4 have overlapped. So that tells us that this is not a trend. This is likely a consolidation, right? This area is likely a consolidation. So if that's the case, okay, no problem. It doesn't mean you can't trade it. just look for the range low. You have a few range lows here. We'll just say this one, and you have this one. Those are your range lows. So during a consolidation, if the consolidation is going to hold, then you have a high probability to see that you're going to see a reversal at the range low. So if you're going to play this thing, that's where you want to be open to it, right? As far as if you're thinking swing trade long, if you're thinking day trade longs, if you're thinking, options long, that's the area. If you're thinking short, I don't know what you're thinking. This thing has room to test those supports. And if it breaks that first one, you're likely to see this midpoint area right here, which is what? 47, just around $47, maybe a little bit lower. And then if it pushes, it could test this low, 36. Well, actually, the low of the candle. So I'd say between 36 and 40, okay, if it starts pushing those supports with conviction. But again, if this thing is following Bitcoin, remember, these things don't trade alone. They don't trade on their own. If it's following Bitcoin and Bitcoin turns, then this thing will likely turn also. So keep that in mind. Plus, you have this support here. You have what's called an order block. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. That's an order block is a what do you call it? An ICT word. Now, but essentially, you don't need to know the definition and all the nonsense that they go into. All you need to know is it can act as a support or a resistance. Okay. And Bitcoin has a very similar situation going on right now on the weekly and on the monthly. As you can see in my other channel, I talk about that a lot. Right. So this could be in a very similar situation. Watch for bullish reversals in this area or those supports that I just talked about. All right. Okay, cool. So now, Hamid. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up here in a moment because I can't go much over. Your other is better to talk about Bitcoin. By doing this, you cover about more than 9% of cryptocurrency. No, thanks, Hamid. I appreciate the feedback. Yeah, so I have to run that by the guys that actually send me the analysis. Like they send it to me, I agree with it and whatever, but I don't come up with my own, so I'll tell them, hey, because I mentioned the dominance chart. I mentioned the dominance chart to them. I said, you should include this because people ask for it, so I'll mention it again. I'll say, I'm getting more emphasis on that, and then they'll put it in the routine, so, all right. So now let's go back here, Hamid. You say here, there's an idea that if Bitcoin goes up, for example, 2% yearly, like Apple stock, people like Warren Buffett will buy all the Bitcoin and people can't buy it. Okay, so I don't know where you get these ideas. I'm going to show that. I'm going to put that on the screen here so people can read it. But here's the thing. There may be some truth to it, but don't get carried away with those ideas. You see, the problem with those ideas, I like to think of them as like propaganda, right? And you don't want to be misled or you don't want them to plant seeds in your mind of like this idea and then you may act on it in some way. You don't want to do that. Just like, like when you see these people like Kathy Wood with, hey, I just bought 10 trillion Bitcoin yesterday. Come on, man. They're not doing us any favors, right? So they come out with this propaganda because they're trying to shape the sentiment, right? They're trying to shape the narrative, just like politicians do, right? Politicians come out with all kinds of political theater because they're trying to shape public opinion. Or rich guys, they'll buy a newspaper, and then all the articles are heavily biased toward whatever they want you to feel or think. So it's the same idea. Don't get thrown off by that. Okay, it's good to like be aware of things. It's good to follow along with some of the stuff that's going on. But all I'm saying is don't let it be the root of your decisions. You have to do your own homework, and most importantly, you have to know your own risk tolerance because that's really the key to the whole thing. Knowing what you're willing to risk. The more you're willing to risk, the more flexibility you'll have, the more opportunities you'll be able to benefit from. But when you're wrong, you're going to lose, right? That's the whole point of taking risk. You're okay with losing. That's the key. You have to be okay. If you're not okay, then you risk less, or you wait for more conservative situations to appear, right? So why people say buy Bitcoin? Well, a lot of reasons. We have an inflationary environment, especially on the horizon. Bitcoin is likely to benefit, right? Also, we see the pullback that Bitcoin is in, and that's why I'm in full agreement with buying Bitcoin. I'm not in agreement because Kathy Wood says so. You understand? I'm in agreement because the chart says so. The chart says Bitcoin is in a low risk location rather than a high risk. Like, for example, if Bitcoin was pushing 126 and your friend Kathy Wood comes out, hey, buying Bitcoin, then I'd be like, this is nonsense because the risk is too high. Of course, they're going to tell you to buy Bitcoin at 126 because they want someone to dump it on, right? So they're telling people to buy it now because they've been accumulating it and they want to stabilize it. So they shape the narrative, right? So that the sentiment isn't so bearish, right? And Bitcoin stabilizes, right? That's what it is, in my opinion. There he is, booty cheeks. I'm in full agreement because our government hates us. Yeah, I agree. So there he is, the guy that inspires my jokes, my joke writer over here. Booty cheeks, booty cheeks made me do it. So no, but that's the thing. No risk, right? No story. You have to be able to take risk. But Hamid, my whole point is, don't let these stories steer you the wrong way. You want to be aware of them? Great. Like in my other channel, they make me cover the news. I normally would not cover news because I think most of it's nonsense, but they give me news items and I got to say something about them, right? So it's good to be aware of some of these things. All I'm saying is don't let that be the point of your homework, right? That's not your homework. That's just like, a little thing on the side to just kind of think of it as entertainment. It's a financial cartoon. Think of it like that. It can maybe inspire you to research further. Kathy Wood comes out and says, yeah, I'm buying 10 trillion Bitcoin because I'm special, right? She says that because on my channel, I can make fun of her as much as I want. On the other channel, I can't. They yell at me. So she comes out and says that, and you say, oh, I should look into this further. Not I'm buying it because she's buying it. You understand? So now you look into it further. You do some fundamental homework, right? You understand interest rates. You understand what the Fed position is. You understand how Bitcoin and all these other altcoins and everything should do better in a low rate environment, which is what we're facing, right? We're also facing an administration who wants rates at zero, who's going to change Powell. No more Powell movements, booty cheeks. We're going to have to come up with a new name. No more Powell movements. We're going to have a new guy, and the new guy is going to be like, "Yeah, we're going to put rates at zero while I'm running the printing press at the same time," right? All those things are inflationary. So Bitcoin has a strong argument to be bullish. That's why when it's so bearish, like we've been seeing, right? I'll pull up the Beto chart again. With Bitcoin looking so ugly, that's why it's such a compelling buying opportunity, because the broader fundamentals have not changed, right? I don't see the Fed talking about raising rates anytime soon. I don't see the Fed talking about quantitative tightening. I don't see any of that. The bond market was trying to, the rates were trying to rise, but we saw that they've reversed, right? They're going the right way now. So when you have like a situation like that has a lot of contrast, meaning fundamentals say one thing, but prices just don't match, that's often an opportunity or a warning. In this case, since we're looking for longs, we're looking for investments, it's an opportunity. If we had a situation like this where Bitcoin was at the peak, right, at 126 and pushing or whatever, and we saw all these changes in the fundamentals, but Bitcoin is still pushing, that's a warning, right? But we're in the opposite right now. This is an opportunity. You just have to be willing to take risk, and you have to be willing to let this thing go lower because it's possible. I just think it's lower probability, but it is possible to see 73K. It is possible. Even with Kathy Wood buying 10 trillion Bitcoin and Michael Saylor, I'm buying as much Bitcoin as I possibly can, people. So Argentina stock, they have a lot of inflation in that country. Well, so think of it like this. Yeah, they have inflation. They also have an extremely conservative leader, right? Malai. He's like their version of Trump. Here's the thing. They have a lot of inflation. Their stocks should rise, right? Just like we saw with the Turkish lira, right? Well, do you remember Turkish lira? A couple of years ago, people were asking me about the Turkish lira because it was vertical. Well, it turns out the price was vertical, whatever, because it was dollar against lira, because the lira, or it was the other way around. I forget what it was, but the chart was vertical. And it was vertical because the money was just being devalued. It was just worthless or whatever, right? So the chart was vertical. So when you have inflation like that, usually stocks, property, all that stuff rises in value because it requires more of the currency to purchase that hard asset. That's the idea. So U.S. stocks are not going vertical because the USD is nice and stable, right? Right. As we can see, why should we see stock go up in that country? Well, because their money is worth less, right? I believe they have the peso, the Argentine peso, I believe it is. But I know Malai is a big Bitcoin guy, right? So I know they want to be pegged to the dollar. Or has he changed? I think he pegged to the dollar. I don't know. I don't know exactly because I'm not in Argentina, but they've always had lots of problems with their economy. They just can't get it together. I guess because they're all like Italians over there, and Italians just I don't know, man. They know their wine, they know their food. But when it comes to government, man, I don't know. They're too busy drinking wine and eating good food. I don't know what happens after that. So anyway, now I'm joking, but you understand my point. Like inflation usually means that their currency is being devalued, and it requires more of that currency to buy those assets. So I don't know. In the case of Argentina and Argentine stocks, I don't know if that's a good thing for their stocks. Theoretically, I would think it should be. But remember, I'm not an economist. All I know is here in this country, our dollar is going to zero. Stocks keep pushing new highs, or stocks are strong, right? Bitcoin's unusually has pulled back, but I just think that's poor sentiment. It's like it's just a brief reaction. I'm starting to sound like Michael Saylor now, right? It's just a blip. If you guys can't handle a 95% correction, or no, if you guys can't handle a 95% fluctuation in the market, then you're a little girl. Put your big boy pants on. Yeah, okay, thanks, Michael. My account just got wiped out. Ah, you're a pussy. Oh, I got my language is getting bad here. Um, yeah, sure. Well, Venezuela is another one. So I don't know with the stocks in those countries. I don't know. The best thing to do is judge it by the chart, Hamid. I mean, is there a stock? Can you give me an Argentine stock? Maybe we could take a look at one real quick. Or is there an index? Because I'm not familiar with that country as far as their stock market. And I'm not going to pretend that I know what's going on there exactly. I just know some basic details. Like their guy that runs a country is a nut, but but in a good way. Um, so I mean, he's trying to turn that country around because of all the problems that they've had. And you want to look at the stocks, or there should be an index, right? Something like their version of the Dow. Do they even have a stock market in Argentina? I don't even know. They're so backwards. I'm joking. Probably have some Argentines in here. They're going to be like, this guy's insulting me. I'm going to report him to YouTube. Him and booty cheeks. I'm going to get them banned. So look at find an index. Maybe there's like an international index or something where you can track Argentina. And Javier, yeah, that's him. Yeah, that's the guy, right? Malay, whatever his name is. Yeah, and you'll see the index should look strong, right? If inflation is having its effect on the country, it should look like this. Here, I'll show you what it should look like. It should look like that. That's our S&P. So, we don't have amazing growth in this country. These stocks are not growing. These 500 stocks aren't growing by leaps and bounds. It's our dollar is going to zero. That's what's happened. That's why this looks like this, right? And we had 3 rate cuts, over the previous quarter, and the S&P is just flirting with highs. This thing just doesn't know how to pull back. It's because it's the inflation. So that is what the index should look like, right? So if the Argentine index looks similar to that, then buying Argentine stocks would be the same as buying stocks in countries that are highly inflated, like U.S. stocks. But we're probably going to see more global inflation unless the Bank of Japan raises the rates some more. I don't know. Because again, now you're talking like global inflation. These 500 stocks are not growing by leaps and bounds. Right. Only 7 that are part of the right. Right. Right, booty cheeks. Right. We know who those are. Okay. Our entire market is based on just those stocks. So no, Hamid, it's the opposite. If inflation goes higher, that means the money's worth less. And if the money's worth less, that means it costs more to buy the stock. It costs more money, more dollars to buy that same stock. So the price of the stock goes higher. It's not that the stock is worth more, it's just the price goes higher because it costs more dollars. Right? You see the same thing with like oil, right? Or whatever. If the dollar is very low, oil is usually higher, or gold, right? Why do you think gold is at 4,500 or whatever, 4,300, whatever it is now, right? Because our dollar, it costs more dollars to buy gold, the same piece of gold. So that's why the price of gold rises. It's not that gold is worth more money, it's that it requires more dollars to acquire that gold. Does that make sense? That's the effect of inflation. So inflation usually has a positive effect on hard assets or things like stocks, right? So stocks, property, metals, things like that will rise when you have inflation, which inflation is simply your currency is being devalued. And there's an incentive here in this country, especially to devalue the currency, right? And the administration is pushing for that. So there's a lot of force behind that. You would think, well, why would they want to do that? For competitive reasons with China and to pay back their bills in worthless currency, which is a typical government move. Okay. How do you think the US government will pay? Well, I have no idea, but I suspect, Alex, I had this conversation with someone. I'm going to answer this and then I got to go, man. I got work to do. Um, I mean, that's always possible, and Alex, that's always possible. The problem with that is, though, he always ran on being a peace kind of guy, right? He's not one of these Democrat people that do that sort of thing. He was supposed to be the opposite, right? So that's one thing. But then again, it doesn't matter what he says; he changes his mind all the time. But the other thing is, um, they can do something like revalue gold, or someone suggested to me they're going to use the stable coins to finance it. They're going to basically, because we're going to have stable coins basically take over, and they're going to use stable coins to basically refinance this, or to pay it back, something like that. Because stable coins, you can print as much of those as you want, right? Or something like that. So stable coins, which I have to research that further because I think that's an interesting idea. So stable coins or revaluation of gold, which again, that requires Senate approval. He can't just decide to do that. But the reason why I say revalue gold is because gold on the government balance sheet, from what I understand, gold is still like $43 or something like that. The value of government gold is like $43, which means their balance sheet is completely inaccurate. Because if they have gold, gold is 4,500, not 43. So the value on their balance sheet is misstated. It's undervalued. So if they decide to say, oh, we're going to fix that accounting error or whatever, and we're going to put gold at 45, or gold is now worth 4,500, like it is in the open market. Now the U.S. government is going to have a ton of money in their hands, right? And they can use that to pay back. That they'll eat up a lot of the deficit with that amount of money. But so that those are some ideas. So stable coins, revaluation of gold, or Bitcoin, right? Because we have a Bitcoin reserve now, and all that Bitcoin stuff. So there's some possibilities there. But again, that's all pure speculation. I don't believe in any of that stuff really. Like unless it's on the Senate, it's in the Senate to revalue gold. I really don't know what the possibilities of that is. Stable coins are like banks. Let's see what Booty Cheek says here. Stable coins are like banks, except they are technology 50 years ahead of banks, and they are fully reserved, which is where the demand for U.S. Treasuries. Right. That's it, Booty Cheeks. That's right, because they'll back the stable coins with paper, right? So that's who's going to buy the bonds, because if no one wants to buy U.S. bonds, that means the government has to step in and print more money, right? But if stable coins are backed by the paper, then that's who's going to buy the paper, and the government won't have to, right? So that's who's going to buy. And if people are buying bonds, if bonds are backing all these stable coins, and there's demand for bonds, that means bond prices rise, which means yields go lower, right? So I don't know. That's not exactly, that's not inflationary, is it? I mean, lower yields is inflationary. Yeah, right. No, Hamid, I know that's Trump is not right. Trump is all about, he's one of those peace guys. But like I said, he could change his mind. You know, bank is Bitcoin enemy because they can't. Right, right, right. Well, Bitcoin. Right, Bitcoin banks hate Bitcoin because Bitcoin took that power away from them. Now a bank doesn't have full control anymore. There's another place you can go that can't be inflated. So anyway, it's probably why all these, Michael Saylor is trying to corner the market in Bitcoin and wants to own all of it. So anyway, all right, you guys, you guys got me talking way too much, man. I have work to do. All right, but I hope you got something. I hope you learned something here. We covered some economic stuff, a lot of interesting things here. All right, I hope I answered all your questions. Trump's like Bitcoin because bank can't print it, right? And he's also making a ton of money off of it. All the donations he's getting, and all the deals. That's why he likes Bitcoin. Remember, just a few years ago, folks, Bitcoin's a scam, folks. Bitcoin's a scam. Now he's accepting payments at his properties. You can pay in Bitcoin, folks. I'll take your Bitcoin. So he went from scam to he's accepting it. So if you want to stay at one of Trump's hotels or whatever, one of his apartments, you could pay your rent in Bitcoin or any other coin. You can pay in Trump coin. I just tuned in for the sports cars. Right, I know. Me too. I just haven't gotten to them yet. I'm still interviewing the girls. I'm still interviewing them. Okay, I got some nice ones, but none of them agreed. I need to pay them more, man. But anyway, all right. Well, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. All right, you guys. So hey, thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the stream, guys. So this is now it for the year. Enjoy your holiday. Don't waste your time in front of the charts. Take the next few days off. Spend time with family. Drink. Do things. Have fun. Okay. If you don't drink, have fun. Do something, man. The markets aren't going anywhere. This week is probably, tomorrow, Wednesday, it's probably going to be slow. It's probably going to be slow going into Monday. I don't know if we have non-farm payrolls on Friday. We might not have it because, the government, when they were closed, it threw off their whole schedule. So they may not have it. So I don't know, but keep an eye out for that. All right, non-farm payrolls. Anyway, I wouldn't be expecting things to pick up until next week anyway. So take it easy. All right, Happy New Year, guys. Enjoy yourselves. Have fun. Take it easy. Happy, healthy, all that stuff, right? UTXO, booty cheeks, don't overdo it in the eating department or whatever. I'm just saying. Never. They love us. They love us. They love our votes, right? Because our votes mean something. So anyway, we can go back and forth all day. All right, guys. So again, enjoy, have fun, Happy New Year, everything else. Okay, and okay. So then, don't eat so much. Then don't eat. That explains why you come to all my streams. Don't eat so much. Take that injection that they have. They have that injection for that sort of thing. Okay. Go do some walking. Walking is good. Walking. Yeah. All right. I'm getting myself more and more in trouble, aren't I? No matter what I say, then he's going to say, I happen to be okay, never mind. I'm just going to get worse and worse here. I'm only just going to get worse. You know my sense of humor. You guys have an idea now how bad it is. I only take government-approved injections. I think they are government-approved. You may have to look into that, though. Anyway, all right, you guys, enjoy. Take it easy, and we'll do this again next week, all right? So enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world. And thank you very much for watching, and thank you for all the comments on the other channel. I appreciate it. And any other feedback you have, let me know. I'm always listening. All right, you guys. See you then. Enjoy.